One evening, as they sat around their modest dinner table, Daniel shared his dream with his parents. "Mama, Papa, I want to be a banker." In the heart of Georgia is the small town of Willowbrook. Life moved at a slow, steady pace here, where traditions were revered and change was often met with resistance. It was in this quaint, segregated town that Sam and Lily Thompson began their journey together. Sam, a tall, strong man with a gentle demeanor, worked tirelessly on the fields from sunrise to sunset. Despite his hard work, the wages were meager, and opportunities for advancement were scarce. Lily, a spirited woman with a nurturing heart, took on various jobs to supplement their income, from washing clothes to cleaning houses for the white families in town. Their modest home was a small, weathered cottage on the outskirts of Willowbrook, surrounded by the wild beauty of nature. It was here, amid the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves, that their love story blossomed. Though they had little in terms of material wealth, their hearts were rich with dreams and hopes for a better future. For years, Sam and Lily yearned for a child to complete their family. They prayed fervently, their faith unwavering despite the disappointments. The townspeople, steeped in their prejudices, often whispered behind their backs, mocking their unfulfilled dreams. But Sam and Lily held on to their faith, believing that one day, their prayers would be answered. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the fields, Lily felt a stirring within her. She rushed to Sam, her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Sam, I am pregnant," she whispered, clutching his hand. Sam was very happy as she handed him the strip she had used for testing. The couple were overjoyed. Months passed, and Lily's belly grew, much to the astonishment of the townspeople. Many were skeptical, but some began to show kindness, offering help and advice. Despite the lingering prejudice, there was an undercurrent of hope and anticipation. Finally, after a long and arduous labor, their son, Daniel, was born. He was a small, fragile baby with large, curious eyes that seemed to take in the world with a wisdom beyond his years. Sam and Lily looked at him with awe and love, knowing that their prayers had been answered. As Daniel grew, it became clear that he was no ordinary child. He was exceptionally intelligent and observant, often asking questions that left adults at a loss for words. His parents encouraged his curiosity, despite the town's narrow-minded views on education for black children. One day, when Daniel was just 10 years old while walking through the town square, Daniel noticed the bustling activity outside the local bank. He saw rich white men entering and leaving, discussing matters that seemed to be of great importance. Intrigued, he asked his parents about it. Sam explained that the men were bankers and businessmen, people who handled money and made decisions that affected the entire town. Daniel's eyes lit up with curiosity. From that day on, he developed a keen interest in the world of finance. He asked his parents countless questions about money, saving, and investing. Recognizing their son's budding passion, Sam and Lily encouraged him, even though they knew the path he was interested in would be fraught with challenges. Determined to learn more, Daniel decided to take up shining shoes in front of the bank. He believed that by being close to the wealthy white people going in and out, he could overhear their conversations and learn their financial secrets. Sam and Lily were hesitant at first, worried about the potential dangers and the town's prejudices. But they saw the determination in their son's eyes and agreed to support him. With a small wooden crate and a ragged cloth, Daniel set up his shoe-shining stall outside the bank. At first, the white customers were dismissive, but Daniel's persistence and skill gradually won them over. He worked slowly and carefully, making sure to catch snippets of conversation about stocks, investments, and business deals. Whenever he heard something interesting, he would jot it down in a worn-out notebook he kept hidden in his pocket. Sam and Lily watched with pride and concern as their son diligently pursued his dream. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but they believed in Daniel's resilience and intelligence. They saved every penny they could, hoping to give him the education he deserved, his eyes shining with determination. "I want to help people, just like those men I hear talking outside the bank." Sam and Lily exchanged a worried glance. They knew the harsh realities of their world, but they also believed in their son's potential. "You can be anything you set your mind to, Daniel," Lily said softly, placing a reassuring hand on his. "But you must be prepared for the challenges ahead." With his parents' encouragement, Daniel continued to hone his financial acumen. He began offering financial advice to the Black families in Willowbrook, helping them save and manage their meager earnings. Word of his skills spread, and soon, the white townspeople only believed the high praises were rumors, as no Black man could ever possess such foresight. As Daniel's reputation grew, so did the animosity of those who felt threatened by his success. One night, a group of white men, fueled by jealousy and prejudice, vandalized the Thompsons' home, leaving behind hateful messages. Sam and Lily stood resolute, comforting Daniel and reassuring him that they would overcome this adversity together. 15 years later, Daniel, now a grown man with a family of his own, moved to Los Angeles. The city, with its sprawling urban landscape and vibrant diversity, was a far cry from the insular, racially segregated environment of Willowbrook, Georgia. Although racial discrimination was still present, it was less oppressive than what they had faced back home. Daniel's wife, Emily, was a pillar of strength and support. Together, they had 2 young children, and despite their cramped living conditions in a relative's utility room, their home was filled with love and hope. Daniel promised Emily that they would move out soon and find a place of their own. Determined to make a better life for his family, Daniel took up a job as a real estate agent. His keen eye for detail and his innate understanding of finance quickly set him apart from others in the field. He spent his days scouring the city, observing the stark contrasts between the overcrowded Black communities and the underused white neighborhoods. One afternoon, while driving through a predominantly white area, Daniel noticed a dilapidated apartment building with weeds growing through the cracks in the pavement. Despite its neglected state, Daniel saw potential in the property. Its location, adjacent to a bustling Black community, made it a prime candidate for real estate speculation and renting. He approached the building's owner, a skeptical older white man named Mr. Thompson. "You only have half of the apartments rented out," Daniel said confidently. "Why don't you sell it to me? I'll give you $30,000 now, and another $5,000 when I rent out all the rooms." Mr. Thompson admired Daniel's boldness but was hesitant. "That's a risky proposition, son. I've had a hard time renting these apartments as it is," he replied. Daniel, undeterred, glanced around the cluttered office and noticed a calendar on the wall. The calendar bore the logo of a local bank and the name of a manager. An idea sparked in Daniel's mind. "Mr. Thompson, I see you have a good relationship with your bank manager. If you could help me secure a loan, I'll make sure this building thrives." The older man was intrigued by Daniel's confidence and determination, but still wary. Before leaving, Daniel made sure to thank Mr. Thompson and expressed his understanding of the risks involved. Daniel left the office and headed straight to the bank. The manager's secretary, a woman with a stern expression, refused to let him see the manager. Daniel waited patiently in the lobby for hours, determined to seize any opportunity. When the bank manager finally emerged, Daniel approached him. "Sir, I know one of your VIP customers. The business I plan to do will benefit him greatly. I hope you can approve a loan for me," Daniel explained earnestly. The manager dismissed him without a second thought. That night, Daniel received a surprising call from Mr. Thompson. "Did you use my name to try to get a loan?" the old man asked. Daniel apologized, fearing he had ruined any chance of acquiring the building. To his surprise, Mr. Thompson didn't scold him. "I admire your persistence. You remind me of myself when I was younger. I'll guarantee the loan for you," Mr. Thompson said. With the loan secured, Daniel bought the property and immediately set to work. One day, while he was renovating the building, an old white lady returned home from shopping and saw him. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Daniel remained calm. "I'm renovating this apartment building," he replied. The old lady's face twisted with anger. "Workers like you should be careful," she sneered. Daniel stood his ground. "This is my building. I will take good care of it," he said firmly. Fuming, the old lady called the police, who arrived shortly after. They questioned Daniel, suspecting he was pretending to be the owner. Daniel calmly produced his real estate certificate, showing he was prepared for such confrontations. The police left, clearly annoyed but unable to challenge his ownership. As Daniel continued his renovations, the old white lady watched him with a mix of resentment and disbelief. A few days later, she moved out, unable to bear living in the same building as a black man. Daniel quickly rented her apartment to a black family, and soon the entire building was filled with tenants. With the initial success under their belt, Daniel and Mr. Thompson continued their partnership, buying more properties and flipping them for profit. Mr. Thompson, with his respectable facade, handled the negotiations while Daniel, the mastermind, conducted the financial analysis and strategic planning. This arrangement allowed them to circumvent the racial barriers that would otherwise have hindered their business endeavors. Daniel's keen observations and Mr. Thompson's front-facing presence proved to be a formidable combination. White property owners, unaware they were dealing with a black man, readily engaged in transactions, confident in Mr. Thompson's business acumen. The profits rolled in and Daniel's reputation, albeit behind the scenes, grew. Daniel's success in transforming the dilapidated apartment building into a profitable venture did not go unnoticed. Encouraged by their initial success, Daniel and Mr. Thompson continued their collaboration, buying more properties and flipping them for profit. Their discreet partnership allowed them to navigate the racially charged real estate market effectively, using Mr. Thompson's name to negotiate deals with white sellers who remained unaware that a black man was behind the transactions. The profits rolled in, and Daniel's influence, though hidden, began to grow. With their real estate portfolio expanding, Daniel and his new partner, James, a fellow black real estate developer in Los Angeles, set their sights on an even more ambitious target. They aimed to buy a building that housed multiple banks, a move that would provide them with better loan access and invaluable insights into the real estate market, effectively placing them at the epicenter of financial power. Recognizing the necessity of a credible and skilled intermediary, they enlisted Benjamin, a white man, to act as their frontman. Although Benjamin had proven his reliability, Daniel and James knew the stakes were higher this time. The complexities of negotiating such a significant purchase required thorough preparation. Together, they embarked on an intensive training regimen for Benjamin. They taught him the intricacies of high-class social manners, advanced real estate knowledge, and complex financial calculations. Benjamin, eager to succeed, absorbed the information like a sponge, his confidence growing with each passing day. The day of the negotiation arrived. Benjamin, now polished and well-versed, met with the building's owner, a shrewd businessman named Mr. Whitmore. The asking price was a steep $2.4 million, but Benjamin was prepared. During the negotiation, Mr. Whitmore attempted to intimidate Benjamin with grandiose claims about the building's value. However, Benjamin, armed with meticulous calculations and detailed financial knowledge provided by Daniel and James, remained unfazed. "I've reviewed the building's annual revenue and operating costs," Benjamin began confidently. "Based on the current vacancy rate and market trends, the fair market value is closer to $1.56 million. Mr. Whitmore, taken aback by Benjamin's precise figures, glanced at his accountant, who nodded in reluctant agreement. Impressed and somewhat cornered, Mr. Whitmore conceded. They shook hands, and the deal was sealed at $1.56 million, significantly lower than the initial asking price. With the acquisition of the building, Daniel and James now had unprecedented access to financial resources and real estate insights. The banks housed within the building, now their tenants, were compelled to serve them, offering loans and disclosing valuable market trends. This strategic position allowed them to streamline their real estate ventures and expand their influence across Los Angeles. Daniel and James continued to operate from behind the scenes, using Benjamin as their public face. This arrangement allowed them to navigate the racially charged environment effectively. Their success not only bolstered their financial standing but also began to challenge the rigid segregation that had long defined the city's housing market. Their triumphant expansion was soon overshadowed by a personal tragedy. Mr. Thompson, Daniel's trusted partner, passed away unexpectedly. His death left a significant void, not only emotionally but also in their business operations. The real challenge, however, came from Mr. Thompson's widow, a woman with deeply ingrained racist views. One afternoon, Daniel received a phone call from Mr. Thompson's widow, Eleanor. "I'll buy your shares for $10,000, Eleanor offered, her voice dripping with condescension. Daniel, stunned by the lowball offer, replied firmly, "Eleanor, that's a fraction of what they're worth. I can't accept that." Eleanor's tone turned icy. "If you don't agree, I'll see you in court. And you know how these things go for your kind." Unwilling to be treated unjustly, Daniel decided to fight back. He took the case to court, fully aware of the systemic racism he would face. Despite the odds, Daniel's meticulous documentation and undeniable evidence of his contributions to the business made a strong case. However, the court's bias was evident, and the battle was grueling. While he was facing mounting legal fees and the possibility of losing everything, Daniel devised a bold plan. He and James decided to buy the Mainland Bank in Texas, a move that would not only secure their financial footing but also grant them significant power and influence. With Benjamin once again as their intermediary, they navigated the complexities of the deal, leveraging their combined expertise and strategic acumen. One evening, Daniel and James discussed their plan over coffee. "We need to make this move," Daniel said, his eyes filled with determination. "If we control the bank, we control our future." James nodded. "It's risky, but it's worth it. Let's get Benjamin on board." Benjamin, who had become a trusted ally, agreed to help. "I'll handle the negotiations," he assured them. "We'll make this work." The acquisition of the Mainland Bank provided them with the leverage they needed. It strengthened their position in the legal battle and showcased their ability to overcome the racial barriers that sought to limit them. Despite the systemic racism and the widow's relentless efforts, Daniel and James's strategic brilliance and unwavering determination prevailed. In the end, the court ruled in their favor, allowing them to retain their shares and continue their groundbreaking work in the real estate market. The victory was not just a personal triumph for Daniel. It was a significant step forward in challenging the deeply entrenched racial inequalities of their time. In a bustling office in downtown Los Angeles, Benjamin sat across from the bank's current owner, Robert Florence Sr. The air was thick with anticipation. "This is a prime piece of real estate, Mr. Florence," Benjamin began, exuding confidence. "With the right management, it could be worth far more than your asking price." Florence Sr., an astute businessman, scrutinized Benjamin. "You seem to know a lot about banking for a real estate guy." "I've had excellent mentors," Benjamin replied smoothly, thinking of Daniel and James's meticulous coaching. After hours of negotiation, the deal was sealed. Daniel and James now controlled the Mainland Bank. With Benjamin's help, they began approving loans aimed at empowering the Black community, providing opportunities for home ownership and business development that had been previously denied. However, their success drew the attention of Robert Florence Jr., a man deeply suspicious of the bank's sudden change in operations. Florence Jr., eager to protect his family's legacy, launched an investigation into the bank's dealings. "Father, there's something off about these new bank owners," Florence Jr. said during a tense dinner conversation. "They're approving too many high-risk loans." Florence Sr. dismissed him. "Banks need to take risks to grow. Don't jump to conclusions." Undeterred, Florence Jr. threatened Daniel and James with a Treasury Department inspection. One evening, he confronted them directly. "I have reason to believe your bank is involved in illegal activities," Florence Jr. declared, handing them a formal notice. "The Treasury Department will be conducting a thorough inspection." Daniel and James exchanged worried glances. They knew that such an inspection could spell trouble, given the precarious nature of some of their loan approvals. In a dimly lit office, Daniel, James, and Benjamin convened to discuss their options. "We need to find a way to protect our interests," Daniel said, pacing the room. Benjamin leaned forward. "What if we buy another bank and transfer the problematic loans there? It could buy us some time." James nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it might work." We need to move fast. They acted quickly, using Benjamin's frontman status to purchase a smaller bank. However, the plan backfired spectacularly. Federal regulators, already suspicious due to Florence Jr.'s complaints, discovered critical issues during their inspection. The problematic loans stood out like a sore thumb. One fateful morning, Daniel and James were arrested by the FBI. The charges were severe, implicating them in fraudulent banking practices. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere charged with tension and racial politics. As the trial progressed, it became clear that Benjamin, fearing for his own freedom, had struck a deal with the authorities. He testified against Daniel and James, painting a picture of their operations as reckless and illegal. "They coerced me into these schemes," Benjamin claimed, his voice trembling. "I had no choice." Daniel and James sat in stunned silence, feeling the betrayal cut deep. But Daniel refused to let this be the end. He prepared a powerful speech, determined to make his voice heard. The Senate hearing was a spectacle broadcast nationwide. Daniel stood before the committee, his heart pounding. He took a deep breath and began. "Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today not just as a businessman, but as a black man who has fought against the systemic barriers that have oppressed my people for generations. Our efforts were not just about profit. They were about providing opportunities where none existed. We sought to lift our community, to give them the chance to own homes, to start businesses, to dream." The room fell silent, captivated by Daniel's words. He spoke of the racial discrimination that permeated every aspect of society, of the challenges they had faced, and of the dreams that had driven them. Despite the compelling speech, Daniel and James lost their assets. The government confiscated their properties, leaving them with nothing. However, the seeds of their efforts had already been sown. In the months following the trial, Daniel and James received letters and visits from people whose lives had been transformed by their efforts. Families who had secured homes, business owners who had received the necessary loans, and young individuals inspired by their stories all came forward to express their gratitude. One afternoon, as Daniel and James sat on the porch of Daniel's modest new home, they reflected on the journey that had brought them here. "James, do you ever regret any of it?" Daniel asked, his eyes scanning the horizon. James shook his head. "Not for a second. We fought for something bigger than ourselves. Look at how many lives we've touched. That's worth more than any amount of money." Despite losing their American assets, Daniel and James had safeguarded some properties in the Bahamas. This foresight ensured that they were not left destitute. They used these assets not only to support their own families but also to continue their mission from afar. One sunny morning, Daniel received a call from a local Bahamian official. The official had heard about their story and was interested in collaborating to improve housing conditions on the islands. "Mr. Daniel, your work in Los Angeles is nothing short of inspirational. We could use your expertise here," the official said. Daniel glanced at James, who was listening intently. "We'd be honored to help," Daniel replied. "Let's set up a meeting." In the Bahamas, Daniel and James found a new canvas to paint their vision of equal opportunity and community empowerment. They worked closely with local leaders, applying the lessons they had learned in Los Angeles to create sustainable housing projects that benefited both local residents and expatriates. Their projects attracted international attention, and soon, they were once again recognized as pioneers in real estate development. This time, their work was free from the constraints of racial discrimination, allowing them to truly showcase their abilities. Years later, Daniel and James were invited back to Los Angeles for a ceremony honoring their contributions to the fight against housing segregation. The event was held in a newly developed community center, a place that symbolized the progress they had helped achieve. As they stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted in applause. The mayor presented them with a plaque, acknowledging their efforts and the lasting impact of their work. "Daniel and James, your courage and vision have transformed our city. You've shown us that with determination and integrity, we can overcome even the most entrenched barriers. Thank you for your service and dedication." Daniel took the microphone, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're honored to be here today. Our journey wasn't easy, but it was worth every challenge. We believed in the power of community, and we believed in the power of change. This is just the beginning. Keep fighting, keep dreaming, and never lose hope. Daniel's resilience has given him and his family the much-needed happiness and comfort. Moral lesson: the story of Daniel and James is a testament to the power of resilience, foresight, and unwavering commitment to justice. Despite the immense challenges and systemic racism they faced, their determination to create equal opportunities for their community never wavered. They demonstrated that true success is not measured by wealth alone, but by the positive impact one has on others' lives.